behold, a pale horse. The man who sat on him was death, and hell followed with him.
You're killing me, man.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Declarations of War. I'm your host, Alek and Laeve, joined tonight by the Black Mark Award-nominated Andy Astronaut.
Hey.
And Laeve.
G'day.
Our special guest for this show is Noir alumni and Massacre of M2 veteran Gabriel Karade.
Good evening.
No relation. Oh, Gabe, it's been so long since we've been able to hang out and talk on voice. How have you been?
I've been good, thanks. I was thinking actually earlier, it's been nearly 5 years. That's a crazy amount of time to go by, but yeah, really well, thanks. Life moves on. I'm now 40 years old, so it's funny how Eve's there with you for a long period of time. But life's good. I'm really enjoying the game again at the moment, which is good.
Yeah, the game is, I don't know, I was just having this conversation with my fiance the other day. I've been playing the game for like 15 years now, I think. And there have been a couple times when I've kind of come close to stopping, but it's always brought me back in with something. And right now I feel much more engaged with the game than I have in a long time. For whatever reason, the gameplay is just hitting me.
Yeah, I feel like the ecosystem right now is just in a pretty interesting place as far as a lot of the smaller groups, or maybe not even smaller groups, but like mid-scale groups are doing really interesting things right now.
And Gabriel, you are not with a mid-scale group. You were in Noir. Noir is like known for small gang. How did you go from Noir to the biggest block in the game? What was that journey like for you?
Well, you mean shooting the biggest block in the game? Yeah. Well, it's an interesting transition actually, because obviously, I joined Noir back in 2010. I was looking for something quite different back then. I'd been flying solo for quite a long time. After a couple of alliances I used to fly in, like Force of Evil, died. Yeah, the small gang stuff in Noir was really, really great for me. I had 8 years of it. But when we joined MC back in 2016, and I think really with the whole tribute campaign, I got a taster of actually flying in some of the bigger blocks, and actually, different part of the game for me, I guess, because I sort of spent certainly 2005 through 2008 flying solo, 2008 through 16 small gang stuff. So it felt like a good time to actually get involved in the sort of the larger scale of warfare.
So the tribute campaign for you was a good thing. Interesting, because it felt like the tribute campaign, I enjoyed it, but the aftermath kind of saw MC go stagnant. A lot of the players in there sort of went their separate ways. Obviously, you found a home in Pandemic Legion. Sorry, I've flubbed earlier. I was about to say you were with PL Shooting Goods, not the other way around. How did you make that switch, and where did you ultimately? What drove you to go to PL as opposed to any of the other groups that you could have joined? What was sort of the deciding factor for you?
I think it was still staying with corp bits, because obviously when Noir went to hibernation at that point in time, I was actually hanging out quite a bit with the BDCI guys, particularly Celine and some of the crazy Swedes who were in BDCI. And so I wanted to stay with the corp when they moved back into the Legion. And I had kind of a slow start to joining PL. In fact, it was actually quite embarrassing, actually, because I started by losing my first Titan, which is not a good way. And actually, it was a bit unfortunate because it was actually the Noir Titan back in December 2018. So it was a bit of an ignominious start. But I recovered from that. Got a replacement Titan sorted out through Headliner. That was good, and basically, started to get involved in the bigger fights. And then when BDCI then subsequently folded and went to sleep, I actually went to Eve London back in 2018 and met with the Corelli guys again, obviously knew them from MC. And that's when Josh and Lentaki asked me to come and join the corp. And I thought, actually, I think this could be quite good, this whole staying in PL thing. So, moved across and haven't looked back.
What's your role in PL right now?
Oh, very much just a grunt and line member, and I'm actually really liking it. Obviously, I spent quite a while as a director in Noir, and in something Korea, I have no sort of leadership type roles. I'm just a grunt, not even an FC, but it's quite enjoyable. And obviously, I've been flying my Titan in these battles as well. So it's just quite refreshing not to actually have to worry about either things going on in leadership, particularly at the alliance level, like when we're in MC or the FC type level. It's just nice and refreshing.
I do have questions because obviously I was not around for that. I've heard the stories, of course, but mostly just from Delator's point of view. I haven't really talked about it in any detail with other folks in the leadership team, just mainly because I haven't seen him terribly much. E-Vegas, we only really got one good one with Noir back. Pandemic was, of course, screwed last year's, so it's very unfortunate. I was getting ready, I had all my swag ready to go and everything. It is what it is. I do want to ask you about the big battles, but do you want to shed any light on sort of what your view was of how MC, sort of went dark, eventually folded, took Noir with it?
Yeah, I think it was just, there's a lot of unfortunate timing. Obviously, a lot of people getting really busy with real life, kind of uncertain position in the north as to what we're doing. We missed out on some of the bigger battles. So, for example, X47. We were there, but actually, I remember actually sitting in the channel with Lentaki as my Doomsday partner, and we just sat the whole night out in a station waiting to jump in. So we sort of, I think we certainly were starting to stagnate at that point, and then I think holding on to Sovereign Tribute obviously didn't really help. Just sense of almost losing purpose, but I think the thing is that MC obviously had a really interesting history, and I actually crossed swords with the original MC back in 2004 because I was in FO when we were their first contract. But I think obviously the mercenary game changed an awful lot through that period, and by the end it was this, I think, combination of lots of key people really busy with real life, and that just grinding stagnation that SOV sometimes seems to actually bring.
Let's transition to the big SOV conflicts you've been involved in, particularly the latest war right now. I think it's delivered, it certainly met, I would hope exceeded everyone's expectations for what this conflict would be. Goons versus, I guess, Pandemic Legacy, or it's gone through a couple different names as various coalitions have come in and out of the Super Coalition. But one thing's for sure, it's been amazing to watch and a lot of fun to fight in.
Oh, for sure, yeah. It's been really, really bloody, and it's great because actually it's kind of cutting across all different scales of warfare. So, one day I'll be there in one of my alts actually flying around a jackdaw. Next minute, actually, the another alt and a Munin fleet. Next minute, there'll be my main logged into a Titan. So it's been really interesting, but also really bloody, and that's brilliant for the game.
Yeah, that was kind of our experience with it. We kind of deployed out to Delve for a little bit to kind of take part in more small scale stuff when the big fights were happening, or kind of around the big timers. Hopefully catch people, and we actually, like you said, it was very bloody. Like goons actually know what they're doing. They had gate camps set up and were camping pipes and things like that. So it's interesting to see it happening at every scale, like you said. Like some of the soft timers are more mid-scale, and then obviously there's the very big keep-star battles and that kind of thing. Yeah,
because I mean the sort of the precursor sort of part to this, which was Fountain, was a bit there's obviously massive deployment and move, but actually it's just a bit of a steamroll of the space, and obviously just watch in it melt away, and then then basically moving back ready for the main event, in starting with Aquarius, then down to Delve.
Right, yeah, and that was kind of the thing that we saw too, is it seemed like there was a lot of hype and then not a lot happening with the whole Fountain, like you said, steamroll. It really, like, there were a couple big fights in there, but not anything close to the scale you see now.
Yeah, I think the goons using the phrase floodplains, and initially it was quite slow going, but then I think we were count as being in real Delve now, and certainly it's got a much bloodier.
Well, there's the Fountain floodplain, the Aquarius floodplain, then there is Delve, real Delve, and I guess the capital system will be the next thing once it gets to that point.
Yeah, and then actually real Delve, yeah.
Oh, no, that it was, well, there's just keep stars in real Delve. They haven't actually done anything. That was that middle step there. But obviously there's the big M2 fight. You participated in that. Were you a Titan pilot in that, or what was your role?
Yes, so I had actually had a couple of characters. Just for a bit. Yeah, sorry about that. My daughter just woke up, but she's fine now. Yeah, so I was Titan pilot in there, but I also had my fax pilot and a subcap, and it was. I was just thinking on it the other night. Actually, it was quite an interesting way it's set up because it didn't feel like it was going to escalate the way it did. It felt very much like bring the Titans in onto the fort, warping across to a spot to actually hit the keep star, and it just be another armor timer where we'd all bash the keep star, then go home. But I remember distinctly when things started to change was when the jammer got cycled, and then saw the actual Goon reinforcements coming in, and think actually this is going to be real. This is actually going to kick off. So yeah, but my Titan actually was actually the first PL Titan to die, and so actually I think I was an hour and a half into the fight when my Titan got blasted away. So not very long into the fight at all, but yeah, some of the guys were there till downtime.
I was going to say, dying there is kind of unfortunate, but also kind of a blessing in disguise if you're not there until time.
I mean, if you were going to die, better to die at hour 1 than hour 10.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting because I thought I was going to live at first because I was actually just a Capgun primary. I wasn't actually a Doomsday primary. So the other Titan that died at the same time was actually Doomsday off the field. But yeah, there's 260 people on the kill mail and a Keepstar as well. So it was pretty much a guaranteed loss at that point. But it was cool because I mean I actually got to cycle with Doomsday a couple of times. Gotten quite a few super cap kills. So it was the first time I've actually had my Titan in a fight of that sort of scale.
Nice.
I think it's the first kind of fight on that kind of sort of scale that actually worked, wasn't it? It almost seems like an accident that fight actually worked.
Well, let's be clear. There were 2 fights. The one worked. The other one was an unmitigated disaster.
Oh yeah, no, I'm talking about the very first one, the one that went till downtime. The thing afterwards, yeah, that's just horror.
Yeah, it was on the first fight. I can't remember exactly the numbers, but I remember when we jumped in, it was about, I vaguely remember being about 2,000 local count, and it was running brilliantly smooth. I actually had one client full effects on, and that doesn't make a difference for lag, but the other kind of potato mode. But modules were working properly. There was like minimal delay on the cap guns cycling. It was really good. And then yeah, the second fight, well, I was one of the lucky guys who didn't actually get through the jump tunnel in the end.
A blessing in disguise.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm kind of curious.
Oh, go ahead, Andy. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what were kind of comms like, or what was the feeling when in the second fight when things didn't work and the server started crapping out? Like, what was it kind of like to be around that, or what were people saying?
It was very calm. I mean, obviously, there's different layers of comms, so you weren't privy to what was going on at the FCI level and above. But certainly, on our comms, it's just really clear. We're just waiting for the actual, hoping the grid was going to load. And I think I spent something an hour in a jump tunnel, and you could see notifications buzzing around, which was just it was actually the T5 Keepstar. Someone's gunning that against some hostiles. But no, it was really calm on comms. And then it was actually Headliner came in and very calmly just talked us through what to do to actually to get ourselves docked safely. And actually, all the PL Titans that had actually hit jump did safely dock.
Did you stay on comms for the duration of the second M2 fight?
Yes, I did. Well, certainly on the PL comms. It was, right. I mean, to be honest, it was one of those things we didn't. This is obviously from a line member type perspective. Is we didn't really know the picture of what we were necessarily jumping into. We had an inkling. Obviously, we knew that there was a lot of bubbling on the grid, so assumed we'd be coming in at sort of pre-stage points around the grid to actually try and position the fleet in the best position. But we didn't have an idea, and yeah, it wasn't clear straight away that the server was having a massive heart attack. It actually, I'd say, probably, so from my perspective, it was a good half hour in before we really realised what was going on.
When that realization happened, kind of like walk us through what that felt like, what was said, when you kind of made the connection of what was happening, and kind of the feel of that moment on PL comms.
Again, it really calm. I mean, for me, it was like, oh dear, I've only had this Titan 2 days, so it's going to be another kill mail on Z-kill. But Yeah, no, it was very common, and yeah, when Headline came on and actually talked through what we had to do to actually to get safety docked, so obviously everyone did that. Reload a couple of times, even actually doing things like trading your super back to your alt and back and forth just to make sure everything was in the right place. So it was actually really, really calm and collected. Obviously, I don't know what it was like on the comms of the guys who actually got on the grid, whose ships appeared on grid but didn't see the grid themselves.
Yeah, because it was Tess that took the brunt of the losses there, right? Like they were the ones that seemed to land on grid first and were primaried and lost the most Titans in that fight. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it was a stagger jump in. I don't know exactly when the jump calls were made, but it very much felt like it was a pre-planned stagger jump in, and we weren't last, I don't think, but we were certainly further down the actual list in terms of jumping in, and I guess in the end that's probably what actually was quite good for us because we managed to get everything docked.
So cool. I love that Eve has these moments, man. There's no other game quite like it for that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, see that flying and losing a Titan in that fight was actually a sort of culmination of I guess, the sort of 7-year journey, which actually Laeve here started back in 2013 for me, because back in early 2013, I was actually trying to grind out to get a super carrier to fly in Noir. And then we had a small event called Brofest in Leeds, and that's when Laeve persuaded me, no, you need to think bigger. You need to get into a Titan for Noir.
Apologies, / you're welcome.
Well, let's talk about the aftermath. How involved was PL in the jailbreak attempts by Test? Try to get out of the big camp in M2.
Pretty involved the way through. I mean, I didn't get all the actual fleets, but it was sort of a long period, over a couple of weeks of sort of nibbling away at the system, and I guess just really testing the water. I mean, again, wasn't privy to all the actual details because I didn't have a super trapped in M2. Some of the PL guys did, and there were certainly plans sort of on a very much a need-to-know basis, which is why I think the jailbreak was actually successful, because they didn't know it was coming. But yeah, it was quite interesting because we did some pretty cool things with bombers, getting them into the grid, picking off the right bubbles when you knew there was going to be a friendly Titan coming in that location there. Obviously during the period there was actually a handful of supers and Titans were fed. I think that was largely down to just the timing at downtime. There's a little trick where if you basically you log in just before, you actually get a little bit of capacity regen, and so over the course of certainly days and a couple of weeks, you can actually get your capacity nicely recharged. But if you mess it up with the timing, you get a face full of doomsdays.
Interesting.
But yeah, certainly, again, now just speaking from a lineman perspective, there was quite a lot of involvement, well, a shed load of involvement in the PL end, and I wasn't actually on the final breakout fight itself, but I was on some of the actual the ones leading up to that, and yeah, it was getting really interesting. I think in terms of the broader aftermath of the second M2 battle, is I think definitely there's a massive slowdown in momentum, which everyone noticed, and we just kind of felt that everyone just needs to get the mojo back, particularly a Test, and it was definitely took a couple of good fights and certainly a couple of weeks to get things rolling again. And actually, it's in a really nice position again in the war now, because we're in some really great fights. It's it's not one sided. It's not one side gets steamrolled. It's all to play for.
So from the line member perspective, how do you see the war right now? Where are the front lines for you? What developments are you looking at one way or the other as far as how are things going?
So there's certainly been a shed load of iHubs recently. Obviously, while things are going on with the run up to the breakout, there wasn't a lot of timers being created, but certainly in the past week or two, there's been a load of iHubs reinforced and quite a good bit of ping pong. And actually, even though FuzzySov has got its flaws, it's actually it does certainly distribute some fights around the constellation, and you get some really interesting, or have had some really interesting battles going on, certainly in the past week.
Yeah, people love to hate on FuzzySov, but it does do its job pretty well.
Yeah, I think like anything, it needs a bit of iteration, but yeah, it's got to. It definitely works better than certainly my experience with Dominion Solve. Particularly, we've experienced that from the Noir perspective back in the day, where just actually fighting against massive supercap fleets, grinding structures out of hundreds of millions of hit points. So yeah, it's definitely a good improvement on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was one pretty interesting development in the war, and that is Fraternity has decided to pull out of the South and move up north. And why, you might ask? Well, they tried to displace alliances from Vale and Tribute to try to make those regions basically more renter space for them, so they would have Venal, Tribute, and Vale to rent out. And the locals weren't having it. The locals, including Capel, Toilet Paper, United Federation of Conifers, alliances like that who have pretty good PvP pedigrees. They're just not super large. And they fought back. They weren't going to take it. And Fraternity tried, decided that it couldn't actually displace them without moving their full forces up there. So they pulled out of fighting in the south to put their focus up north, including relocating their super capital fleet all the way back up.
Some kind of additional context there too that I think makes it a little bit more interesting is their original plan was to pay off groups to move, right? So they offered pretty much every group in the area a deal to essentially leave, which included some other groups like Volta and Freight Train Diplomacy. So some of the groups actually took it, like Volta has moved out of the nearby regions, and same thing with Freight Train. So it's kind of interesting because some of the groups left and we're just like, sure, we'll take what we can get. And then the other groups have decided to stand their ground.
And for those groups standing their ground, it has been a fruitful, I would say, campaign. They've definitely inflicted a lot more punishment than they've received. However, Fraternity is slowly but steadily grinding them out of the area. So it looks like they will wind up losing the space war, but winning the ISK war.
I think that was always kind of the expectation, right? The groups that decided to stand their ground essentially knew that they would be outnumbered heavily, but wanted to make it as painful as possible.
Yeah, good for them, I say. Yeah, all too often you see small groups, they'll just leave, when a big group wants to come in, one of these coalition level alliances, because it's pretty scary and you can lose all your stuff. It might make sense for you to just relocate because you have no hope of winning. But some of these big coalition alliances are paper tigery. They look better on paper than they do in practice. And through time zone tanking and high quality piloting, calling in favors from other friends, you can make them pay for it. We're seeing that here. Frat is, they're kind of doing their thing, but I would say they probably wouldn't be making nearly as much progress if it wasn't for Null Seshnaya. Which is working with them on this campaign. They are bringing a much higher level of pilot to these fights. Just more competent FCing, more competent piloting, better comps. It's not that Fraternity's not doing stuff, but in terms of sub-cap warfare, I'm seeing more from NSH.
Yeah, I'd agree too. I haven't been around a ton, but when I have been around, it seems like NSH has been a much kind of harder enemy to fight. Most of the fights with Frat have been kind of dumpster.
Yeah, I mean, they're good in a certain sense. They can just throw super caps and throw cap blobs at a certain place, and then there's not much that they can do about it. But from what I'm seeing, it looks like Capel and Toilet Paper and these guys are getting quite adept at playing around Frat's capital presence. They've even managed to kill a few caps that were kind of out of position, whether that they got bumped off or someone wasn't paying attention, didn't warp their cap away when the rest of the fleet left. So they are getting these kills around the edges, and for the most part trying to avoid their capital power. But that'll only go so far when you have NSH with these like massive Munin and massive Nightmare fleets that they're bringing, which are controlling the grids in a more mobile sense, and they're able to keep up with RK and TP's FCing attempts.
Yeah, we saw that with our own experience a good few years ago in Tenerife's, where we had to deploy down there as Noir to actually save that constellation, and we managed to hold off a Russian coalition down there for a good few weeks, so long enough for a certain Titan to get built. But yeah, you sort of staring down the barrel of a juggernaut. You're going to actually inflict some blows on it and slow it down, but eventually yeah, it's probably not going to go so well for you.
I still can't believe we did that.
Yeah. I'm still amazed your Knicks actually managed to get in there and actually cause the actual event, which actually caused the Russians to actually give us a ceasefire.
A long-time listeners will know this story, but if you've joined us in the past couple of years, you probably haven't heard it. We had a Titan in build in Tenerife's. It was Gabe's Titan. We got attacked by, was it Stainwagon? It's one of the big Russian alliances down there. I forget the exact alliance, but they had reinforced the tower, and we had reinforced their staging tower as well. They had some carriers in their tower. We had the carriers bubbled, so they couldn't escape. I put my Knicks on field to try to kill the carriers faster, and as soon as I did, they tried to swarm me with interdictors and brought in an even bigger carrier fleet to try to kill it. But, Noir being Noir, we just killed off the interdictors. It wasn't even a big deal. I don't think I even panicked on comms at all. It's just like, all right, just kill the dictors. I popped one or two of the carriers we had trapped, pulled my fighters back, waited till the dictors were dead, moonwalked out of there, and now we had like 3 times the amount of carriers trapped, and we just wiped them. It was awesome.
I'll never forget that because I got a text message when I was on the way back from work from Xavier saying, "Oh, dude, it's great. Actually, the Russians have actually called a ceasefire." I thought, my God, the Titan's actually going to get built. But it just such an interesting kind of culmination of that because that had gone wrong because of BTEC-R. The Titan had gone into build before BTEC-R, and the guys building it said, "Oh, don't worry, we've got N3 here, and we've got a massive supercap umbrella." And then BTEC-R happened, and it's like, yeah, funny story. We don't have a supercap umbrella anymore.
Whoops. That's just such a cool story and a lot of fun. And I think PL helped out on that fight. So shout outs to them. If they didn't, we were certainly copying their fits for our Tempest. The Failboat Tempest. Beautiful stuff. All right. So we have been fighting up in the north with Rote Capel. We'll give you updates as it happens. The biggest update we have to give you so far is that there's been a heck of a lot of Black Ops dropping, including some absolutely ridiculous and daring kills and drops against capital ships, bling fit rattlesnakes, elements of larger fleets that seem to be AFK in a gate when the rest of the fleet jumps. We've Black Ops'd in on them, popped them, and then warped off. Pretty fucking cool. However, they're definitely losing some ground. The Rote Capel staging system of JGAMP lost its iHub just yesterday, and their staging Fortizar has been reinforced. So we'll see how that defense goes. It is a pretty well-fit 40, so it's not going to be an easy attack by any means, but they are up against some serious numbers. I believe they were outnumbered 4-1 last night. So we'll see how it goes. We'll participate in it, and we'll report back to let you guys know what happened, how fun it was, and what's going to happen next. But I'd like to transition over to the namesake of this particular show, the Black Mark Awards. We had a phenomenal amount of response this year, much more than last year in terms of people voting. I think we had 92 respondents at maximum.
Yep.
Fantastic. There were some questions, particularly in the FC category, how certain people got nominated. Cough, Ron, and cough. But the way this goes, if you're not familiar, is the nominees are picked by declarations of war hosts, myself, Andy, Laeve, and Artemis, as well as our previous guests. And it's also open to members of Noir and the network as to who to nominate. Once the nominations are in, the top 4 or so, sometimes a little bit more depending on how the nominations go, they are put forward to voting for the general EVE public. And that's what you're seeing here. So, our winners for FC of the Year. Very tight. And I was so sad to see Spartan lose. But it is Asher Elias of Imperium. Congratulations, Asher. Andy, you want to do Doctrine?
Yeah, sure. So this one is not very close and also not surprising whatsoever. But the Doctrine of the Year was Munins. So I think anyone who's been around big fights knows that Munins are more or less the go-to. Just the alpha and the range and the speed are monsters, and they haven't really seen any huge changes as far as hacks go in the recent even year or so. So, yeah, pretty much expected that one to go exactly as it did. So congratulations, Munins.
Yeah, and after having fought the Munins, yeah, I can kind of see it. They have been nerfed pretty harshly. That's why I was surprised to see them so dominant here, because they really have gotten the nerf bat, but it's still, if you can field enough of them in one place, they are just really difficult to counter.
I think it's also hacks in general. It's maybe it's time for a bit of a balance test, but it does feel very much like just hacks are dominating all the time with fleet doctrines, and it'd be nice to see a bit more mixing in there and see some battleship doctrines becoming viable again.
Or even just a hack counter. Right now, battle cruisers are just underwhelming for that. That's what they should be. Like the hack counter is battle cruisers or maybe assault frigates. But assault frigates just don't have the firepower to punch through big fleet fight reps. And battle cruisers, with the changes to the EVE economy, they're just not as cost effective as they used to be.
And the same thing with battleships too, is battleships used to be kind of the big EHP option versus alpha doctrines, but with the ADCs, hacks do really well against alpha, because if you can ADC in time, you save yourself, even though you don't have as much EHP as, say, a battleship would. And battleships, with the kind of resource changes, have gotten a lot more expensive than they used to be, so they're not as cheap as they used to be as far as options go.
Gabe, since you're here with us, why don't you introduce the winner for Best Game Update?
Yeah, so for Best Game Update, by quite a good margin, is Filaments. And I actually have a confession to make. I've never actually used a filament or been to Abyssal Dead Space.
What?
Yeah, no, completely
Spent too
missed
much
out.
time in your Titan, bro.
yeah. No, I was thinking about the other day that part of the game I'm actually missing there, so I do to actually explore at some point. And then obviously you got ESS changes. Quite interesting. Although again, because I don't actually rat or NPC, I've not really had any interaction with the actual the banks in each system. But it sounds like kind of fun trying to rob the bank and then leg it before all the actual locals piling on you.
Sounds like we need to take Gabe on a filament roam soon.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
Sounds like we need a filament that works on his Titan.
Oh, dude, super capital filaments. When is that going down? CCP, come on. Speaking of CCP, Dev of the Year.
And the Dev of the Year by a large margin is CCP Rise, with Dopamine in second, Ratati in third, and Goodfella in fourth.
I feel like Rise always has a pretty strong advantage in this category because, we're a PvP podcast. He's sort of a PvP dev. But I was really happy to see Dopamine get a big showing this year. He's really done a lot for the community.
Yeah. The one I was surprised not to see on here was CCP Aurora, because she also took part in a lot of the tournament stuff and getting Thunderdome up and running. So I was kind of surprised to not see her on the nominations, because she's the other kind of PvP focused, community focused, but specifically PvP focused as well.
Well, depending on how the EVE competitive scene goes in 2021, maybe we'll see Aurora nominated for next year's awards.
Yeah, it's quite possible.
Certainly a lot of interesting stuff on the horizon for EVE competitive play. But anyway, congratulations, Rise. Well earned. Keep doing the good work. Now, for Community Hero, this is a new category that we added. This is EVE players who kind of help more with the outreach side of the game. And given how shitty 2020 was, extraordinary stories you hear of people, helping their communities overcome challenges, whether it's wildfires or coronavirus or any of the other million disasters that we had last year here all around. So I wanted to give the opportunity to recognize those people who are helping lift other EVE players up. And the winner of that category, and it was very hotly contested, Matterall. Matterall nominated for basically massively ramping up his content generation to try to provide entertainment for people that were, struggling with isolation during the lockdown and other challenges. He's really stepped it up. And in general, I'd say he's been a very supportive member of the EVE media community for a very long time. But coming in second, Kellen Darklight, who you may not have heard of, but he was by far the biggest donator for the Wildfire Plex for Good. And also coming up very close behind him, Pandora Singularity, who runs EVE North. And actually, I've just interacted with her for ZTN's memorial candle. We're going to get a candle for ZT at the player memorial in Reykjavik, the physical Eve memorial. They're lighting a candle for him, which is pretty awesome. So shout outs to Pandora Singularity and the whole, just that whole organization. It's wonderful people. That's Six Empire, I think, is sort of the wider group that's behind that. Andy, who took Best CSM Representative this year?
Right, so Best CSM Rep went to Brisk Rabal pretty handily. So second place was Torvald, but Brisk won it by a pretty big margin. Again, unsurprising, he's been on the show. He does a really good job with kind of communicating to the larger kind of community outside of just Init. And yeah, so 0% surprised. Really cool to see him on CSM again, and cool to see that people are still supporting him and voting for him.
Yep, love Brisk. He's always a joy to have on the show. Speaking of which,
the Declarations of War Best Guest, Brisk takes home a double header here, coming in with the overwhelming win in this fact, and possibly one of the few Republican wins so far this year. So, Pharaoh also in second, with Phantomite in third, and Lloyd George in fourth. But again, a big shout out to Brisk. He was a good shout when we did the roast, when we kicked Alex's ass, among other things.
Yeah, he was such a good host for the roast. I was so happy with how that went. Best roast host, Brisk Rubal. And yeah, it's always a joy to have him on the show. Him being a podcast host himself, just really always interesting, always brings something new to the table that either we haven't heard on our show or he hasn't shared on his show, but he'll share with us. It's just an easy conversation, fun, kind of relaxing show environment when we have Brisk on. So love to have him. Of course, we'll have him back this year. For the next two, these are Noir-specific categories, but, you know, Noir is kind of like the hardcore Declarations of War community. A lot of the people in the corporate fans of the show, I'd say the show is probably the main way we recruit these days, so it's always great to have some recognition for the people in our community. Noir MVP, Most Valuable Pilot. Wow, this category was tight. In fact, both of these categories are extremely tight, but by a narrow margin, our very own Andy Astronaut. Congratulations, Andy.
Hey. Yeah, literally 3 votes difference, it looks like. So yeah, super, super close.
Yeah, major shout-outs to Delve, who came in just shy. That's a tough one, because Delve has done so much for us. But I also think, Andy, you've really stepped up as a director. So I can easily see why you got the lion's share of the votes here.
I'm not going to lie, I actually voted for Delve on this one. I was like, he totally deserves it. So he's done a ton for us, especially on contracts. There was one particular contract I think we've talked about on the show already, but he just was a monster and was on like all times of day, camping, catching crazy kills that nobody would have expected. So yeah, I think I probably benefited here from being the only USTZ person. So EU was a little bit more split, but yeah, I'm super happy to win it, and definitely super close, as it should be, because Dal did a great job too.
Laeve, how do you feel having half the votes that Robert did?
I've got to admit, I've been here about a tenth of the amount of time. I'm stunned that I even made the way onto the list. Just like AFKFC of the year, what the hell? I like one fleet.
That's because when you do a fleet, you're like half the fleet.
Yeah, there is that.
Anyway,
got
rookie
all those
of
practices,
the year.
man. Praxis.
Boo. Lashak. Gotta upskill, baby.
No pores in Noir, even though everyone's poor because we don't PvE.
Right. Rookie of the year. This was very tight, but there was a clear winner. Mr. Tommy McPhee, the new CEO of Noir Academy. Tommy has had an outstanding year, as had pretty much everybody in this list. Fryon and Ovix and Dalv all did very well. Ovix pulling in second place, and then a split for third between Dalv and Fryon.
Yeah, so, I mean...
I think personally I voted for Ovix just because he's come so far this year, but Tommy has had a really tremendous impact when he joined, and to be promoted to Noir Academy CEO within your first year of joining is a pretty great sign.
Yeah, he's helped out a ton there, just like organizing things. I mean, we should say he's been gone for a little bit for baby stuff and moving and a couple other real life things. But I'm really excited for when he's back and kind of really kicks the new stuff into gear, because we've gone over kind of some of his plans for Noir Academy and what we're doing there, and I'm really excited for it.
And that's it, your Black Mark Award winners. We will try to have as many Black Mark Award winners on the show as humanly possible starting next month. It's not always possible because of time zones and that kind of thing, but we'll do our best to try to schedule these guests so you have some repeat appearances by folks that we can get. That does mean, yes, we will try to get CCP Rise this year. It's always kind of a crapshoot of if we can get CCP devs, which dev will be able to get on the time frame that works for us, but we'll try to have at least Rise and maybe a few others this year as well. CCP has actually been really great with the new partner program in terms of making the process for getting devs on your content really clear. So I'm definitely looking forward to taking advantage of that this year. Okay, moving into host highlights. My highlight is definitely getting back from the move. I've been out of the game for about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks now, as my computer got disassembled, shipped, and then I had to wait to get it shipped to the new apartment and then reassemble it. I'm in a new place. It's quite nice, but all my stuff's in boxes. Finally got the computer set up, and it was just in time to have a really great, fun recruitment round with a Australian Noir Academy applicant, Agro, A-G-G-R-O. Cool guy. I really had a good time with him. We didn't spend tons of time in fleet together because we kind of died pretty fast. We had a really great conversation afterward. He seems like a sharp dude. We're looking forward to having him around and seeing what he can bring to the table. And it's just generally good to be back. I can't wait to get into more ops this weekend or next weekend. Andy?
Yeah, so my host highlight is some of the stuff we've been doing with Rote. So I got to fly Zarm, the T2 Trig Logi, for the first time in a SAC fleet with them. And we absolutely dumpstered on some frat Gilas. It was like, I think we lost like one ship that decloaked too early, and we wiped almost their entire fleet. And it was super fun to fly. Great ship. If you haven't tried it, it's an absolute beast. So I had a bunch of fun there.
I tried a Zarm. I think it was might have been the same fleet as you.
Yeah, I was going to say I've done it, I think twice now with them, but one of them was both of us. We were like half the Logi wing, which was kind of fun.
It was so good. I love it. I kind of want to get one for just our normal fleets.
Yeah, they're definitely on the pricier side, but they really perform. They're like well worth the ISK. For those that don't know how they work, they kind of ramp up. So you start with lower reps than you would in a Guardian or something else. But as they ramp up, they go way higher on one target. And what's interesting about them is they get a Logi drone bonus. And so if you actually use Logi drones like you should, they end up having a really strong rep output because those Logi drones kind of make up for the slow ramping reps that you get from the main gun.
Well, both the Guardian and the Aneros both have a similar Logi drone bonus, but the difference being the Aneros has the big drone bay, the Guardian does not, and the Aneros is not great for fleet fighting for other reasons. The Zarm has a lot of the fleet fighting advantages that the Guardian does, but it has the Aneros' drone bay, 5 medium-sized rep drones, which is crazy good.
Yeah, and one can't discount the slot layout on the Zarm, which is and the speed of that thing compared to the others under Afterburner. It's just an absolute beast when you put the right modules on it.
Right, tanky, goes fast. Like you said, has kind of the fleet bonuses that you get from Guardian, but then has the drone bay of the Oneros. It just, yeah, it's good. The end.
Laeve, what's your highlight?
Going to rip things away from me. For obviously, I've been very much off busy on the medical side of things, obviously with the COVID vaccination jabs. So a lot of my thing has been planning of jabs followed by jab. Not too much interesting, but I can't stress enough that this is the only way out of this nightmare that we're all in. Hope is in sight, but it's there. And just to say out to everyone, just look after yourselves, keep yourselves. This is basically a really good game of hide and seek, and whoever is the best comes out of it alive. And get your jabs when offered. Please tell your friends, tell your family. Don't believe some of the absolute bullshit out of there about all the kind of the fake, the conspiracy, whatnot. Get this stuff done.
So you would say to discount the absolutely undisputed fact of 5G microchips in the vaccines?
I can say with
into a global
absolute
Marxist.
certainty that I'm not triggering any kind of metal detectors or walking past my radio and then it suddenly picks up people's phone signals and there's a Windows 95, and just joining Microsoft Teams. No, it's these things are the only way out of it. And in all seriousness, if you've got relatives, if you've got friends and family who are a little bit down the kind of the conspiracy palette, get them back on board. The sooner we all get vaccinated, the sooner we get out of this.
Amen.
And the sooner we can go back to Eve London and meet up, Gabe.
Yeah, good shout out. Yeah.
Yeah, Eve meetups, a must. So much has been canceled this year that I was looking forward to, just one thing after another. Coronavirus has taken so much. All right, time for some shout-outs. Excuse me, Gabe, you also have your highlight here.
Yeah, it's actually precisely this time last Sunday. We had a massive brawl in M2. It was actually really good fun. I think probably what happened, we were fighting against some of the less experienced Goon FCs because, I don't know, headliners seemed to be running rigs around them and just positioning in places where we were murdering them. I know I said I complained about hacks online, but I was finding our Eagle fleet and, just getting loads of kills. So it was actually a really good Sunday evening for me last weekend.
Our shout-outs, the Golden Elite subscribers, Mark Havoc and Kestrel Swainson, thank you for your continued support of the podcast. Super cool. If you guys want to hear your name on this show, as well as other cool benefits like hanging out in our Discord, exclusive giveaways, content suggestions where you guys can tell us what you want to see on the show, check out our Patreon. We have some Patreon subscription options, a variety for you to choose from. Every little bit helps. As far as like a non-subscriber related shout out, not really an Eve related thing, but I do want to give a shout out to my moving company, Allied. They have been fantastic in terms of their moving teams. So if you ever need to relocate and you're in the United States, give them a look. I would definitely recommend them. Andy?
Yeah, so my shout out goes to Nick Ormond. So this is one of our Noir pilots, and he's been FCing and really stepped up and taken care of a lot of our Poco timers. So we have a high-sec war deck. Someone's been shooting our Pocos, and he's been doing a really good job defending them and kind of stepping up and taking fights where, they've been fighting outnumbered. They've been fighting up against ships that are blingier than them, and they've been doing a really good job. So shout out to him.
My shout out goes out to all the Noir pilots who are being active while people like me are not so active. I really would love to contribute more, but it's great to see new people stepping up and taking the reins, taking on responsibilities that are normally kind of hogged by the FC team and other things, and just great to see activity.
Yeah, I'd say our activity's been pretty strong, all things considered. The new corp, Paragon Elite, they've been working out real well, gotta say. Gabe?
Yeah, and my shout out just to our CEO, Josh, just a big thank you for inviting me to the Corelli family last Eve London and providing a really good home for me. It's been a really good blast so far, and looking forward to continuing it.
Okay, we have some ops to get off to, so we are calling it for the show. That is it, guys. Go to declarationsofwar.com, participate in our show poll. Like we just said, Noir is recruiting, as is Noir Academy. You can always use a few more good mercs. Someday I'll get Corelli to join us. Hit cafenoir in-game for more info. We'd love to talk to you and see how you can join the Noir family and get in like the coolest declarations of war community engagement that you can get into is being a part of the content that you hear in the show. But wherever you are, whoever you're flying with, and whoever you're blowing up, good hunting, listeners.